In the bustling town of Aba, famous across Nigeria for its thriving markets and shoemaking craft, there lived a skilled shoemaker named Master Chike. His workshop stood on a busy street near Ariaria International Market, where buyers came from all over the country to purchase sturdy, handcrafted shoes. Chike was known for his fine stitching and durable soles, yet despite his talent, he carried a reputation for being proud and unkind. His shop was always filled with apprentices, young boys brought by parents eager for them to learn a trade, but he never truly taught them the secrets of shoemaking. Instead of guiding the apprentices, Master Chike assigned them endless domestic chores. Some spent their days fetching water from boreholes or running errands across Aba. Others washed his clothes or scrubbed his floors. Even in the workshop, he ordered them to sweep or polish already finished shoes, but never allowed them to handle leather cutting, sole fixing, or the fine art of stitching patterns. The boys often complained quietly among themselves, wondering when they would actually learn. Many endured because their parents had paid apprenticeship fees and they feared returning home empty-handed. Chike's method made his home lively with activity, but inside, many of the apprentices' hearts brewed bitterness. They watched him craft shoes that traveled to Enugu, Owerri, and even Lagos, but they remained outsiders in the process. When customers praised his work, he would boast loudly, reminding everyone that no shoemaker in Aba could rival him. This pride only deepened his refusal to pass on knowledge. To him, keeping secrets meant keeping his throne secure. He believed that by ensuring no one else knew the craft as well as he did, his dominance would remain unchallenged. But Aba was not a town where secrets lasted forever. In one corner of the market, a new shoemaker set up his workshop. His name was Uche, a younger man who had trained in Onitsha before moving to Aba. Unlike Chike, Uche welcomed customers warmly, speaking with respect and honesty about prices. His shop, though small at first, quickly gained attention because of his creative designs. He made shoes with colorful patterns, blending modern styles with traditional touches. Soon, whispers spread that this new shoemaker treated not only his customers, but also his apprentices with unusual kindness. Uche's apprentices were not sent to fetch water all day or cook in his house. Instead, he invited them into the heart of his work. He showed them how to measure a customer's foot, how to cut leather neatly, and how to stitch evenly without tearing the sole. He corrected mistakes gently and celebrated small successes with cheer. To them, he was not just a master, but an older brother. They proudly told their families that they were learning fast. This sharp difference in approach began to draw curious eyes from other apprentices trapped in Chike's house. 6. It did not take long for customers to notice the difference too. While Chike was skilled, his arrogance sometimes made him dismissive. If a poor farmer from Umuahia came asking for affordable sandals, Chike might mock him for not having enough money, but Uche would patiently explain cheaper options, even suggesting how the customer could repair old shoes to last longer. Stories of his fairness spread like dry Harmattan fire, and gradually market women, traders, and even visiting businessmen from Port Harcourt preferred his humble workshop. Chike, seeing this, grew restless and angry. Chike could not believe that this younger shoemaker dared to challenge his supremacy in Aba. At first, he laughed it off, saying the boy's workshop would fade with time. But as weeks passed, Uche's shop remained busy, while Chike saw fewer customers. Even some of his apprentices began sneaking to Uche's workshop in the evenings to watch his training. When Chike discovered this, he beat them harshly and threatened to send them away. But the seed had already been planted. Many apprentices dreamed of working under someone who treated them like humans. Determined not to lose completely, Chike tried tricks to ruin Uche's growing business. One day, he spread false rumors in the market, claiming Uche used inferior materials imported cheaply from Cameroon. Another time, he bribed a town official to question Uche's license, hoping the shop would be closed down. But each time, truth defended Uche. Customers tested his shoes and found them strong. The officials inspected and saw his papers were correct. Rather than collapsing, Uche's reputation grew stronger, while Chike's jealousy festered like a wound. Things became worse when one of Chike's oldest apprentices, a bright boy named Emeka from Nsukka, boldly left to join Uche. Emeka explained that after 3 years under Chike, he still had not been taught to stitch a shoe, but in 3 months with Uche, he had already completed his first pair of sandals. This news spread quickly among the apprentices. One after another, they began to leave, some at night, others openly in the daytime. Soon, Chike's once busy workshop grew empty, while Uche's shop became filled with eager learners. Chike was furious. He cursed the boys for being ungrateful and even confronted Uche directly in the market. But Uche, calm and smiling, told him, "Brother, Abba is big enough for all shoemakers. If you treated your boys well, they would not leave you. We are not competitors. We are craftsmen, meant to lift this city's name higher." His words stung Chike, but he dismissed them angrily. Yet, deep inside, he could not deny the truth. The empty workshop and quiet house reminded him daily of what he had lost. Without apprentices, Chike struggled to meet customer demands. His hands alone could not handle the workload he once boasted of. Customers grew impatient, and some stopped coming. Meanwhile, he observed Uche's team producing shoes in bulk, delivering to markets in Aba, Owerri, and even sending packages through bus parks to Lagos traders. The gap between them widened, and Chike's pride began to crumble. Nights found him restless, thinking of the boys who once laughed in his house but were now happily working elsewhere. One Sunday morning after church at St. Teresa's Catholic Parish in Aba, Chike overheard some elders discussing how Uche was training young men who would soon spread Aba-made shoes abroad. They praised Uche not just for his designs, but for his heart. Chike walked home slowly, reflecting on how far he had fallen. He remembered how his father once told him that skill without humility leads to downfall. For the first time, he admitted to himself that he had wasted years chasing pride rather than building people. Weeks later, Chike swallowed his pride and visited Uche's shop. At first, Uche's apprentices were suspicious, thinking he had come to cause trouble again. But Uche welcomed him warmly, offering him a chair and cold sachet water. "Brother, what brings you here?" Uche asked kindly. Chike hesitated, but then sighed deeply. "I came to learn, not shoemaking. I already know that. I came to learn how to lead people. I see now that I was wrong. I treated my boys badly, and I lost everything. But you gained everything by kindness." Uche listened carefully and then smiled. "It is never too late to change, my brother. You are skilled. You only need to open your heart. If you wish, we can work together. Abba will be stronger if we combine our ideas." Chike was stunned at his generosity. Instead of mocking him, Uche offered partnership. The apprentices gathered around, some of whom were once Chike's boys, and they nodded in approval. Slowly, a friendship began to form between the two shoemakers, though Chike still had to rebuild trust. The next weeks saw an unusual sight in Aba's shoemaking circles. Chike and Uche sitting side by side, sketching shoe designs on pieces of cardboard. They experimented with mixing Italian styles with traditional Igbo embroidery, creating unique shoes that caught the eyes of young people in Aba. Customers marveled at this new alliance. Some even said, if these two rivals can become friends, then Aba's shoemaking has a bright future. Gradually, Chike's reputation healed, as people saw his change of heart. Together, they expanded their workshops. Uche's shop became the training ground for apprentices, while Chike's house turned into a storage and finishing center. The apprentices no longer saw Chike as the harsh master they once feared, but as an uncle who now cracked jokes, shared food, and patiently explained techniques. He discovered joy in teaching, and was surprised at how much faster production became when many skilled hands worked together in peace. With combined strength, they attracted attention from traders beyond Nigeria. One businessman from Ghana, visiting Aba to buy textiles, noticed their shoes and placed a large order. Soon, requests came from Accra, Abidjan, and even as far as London, where Nigerian diaspora communities longed for well-crafted Aba-made shoes. Uche and Chike found themselves traveling to Lagos to discuss shipping arrangements, something neither had dreamed of alone. The story of their transformation spread among other artisans in Aba. Tailors, bag makers, and even welders began to rethink how they treated apprentices. Some came to observe Uche and Chike's partnership, learning that kindness and mentorship could multiply business rather than reduce it. Gradually, Aba's reputation as a hub of craftsmanship grew beyond borders. Journalists from Lagos newspapers wrote features about the two shoemakers of Aba, highlighting how their cooperation brought prosperity. Meanwhile, the apprentices themselves flourished. Emeka, who had once boldly left Chike, became one of the leading trainers in the workshop, guiding new boys from Owerri and Benue. Another apprentice, Sani from Kano, specialized in leather dyeing, adding vibrant northern colors to the shoes. Together, they created a blend of Nigerian cultures stitched into every pair. Customers loved the diversity, and soon their shoes carried names like Enugu Classic, Benin Royal, and Abuja Trend. Chike, once haunted by pride, now found joy in watching the young ones grow. He often told them stories of his mistakes, warning them never to let arrogance blind them. He would say, "Skill without people is nothing. Shoes cannot make themselves, but when you teach others, your work lives on." The apprentices respected him for his honesty, and many began to call him Papa Chike, a name that warmed his heart. Uche too admired how far his friend had come. As years passed, their workshop expanded into a company. They registered Unity Footwears Limited in Aba, with branches in Enugu, Lagos, and Abuja. Each branch trained new apprentices, following the model of kindness and skill sharing. Parents no longer feared sending their children because the company had become known for integrity. Some of their apprentices later opened their own shops, spreading the legacy further. Aba was no longer just a town of cheap imitations, but a center of creative, original shoemaking. The success also changed their personal lives. With the wealth that came, Uche married his longtime sweetheart from Onitsha, while Chike, encouraged by his friend, remarried after years of loneliness. Their families often gathered on weekends, eating nkwobi and drinking palm wine, while children played around them. They laughed at old memories, especially when Chike recalled how he once tried to bribe officials against Uche. "See me then, foolish man," he would say, and everyone burst into laughter. International recognition came when a fashion show in Lagos invited them to showcase their designs. Models strutted in sandals and shoes, bearing Igbo embroidery, Yoruba Adia patterns, and Hausa leather dyeing. The audience, including foreign buyers, applauded wildly. Soon after, they received invitations to exhibit in London and Dubai. For the first time, ABBA-made shoes appeared on global stages, challenging stereotypes about Nigerian products. Their success proved that local skill, when nurtured, could stand proudly anywhere in the world. Chike never forgot the lessons of his fall. Even in London, when foreign journalists interviewed him, he admitted openly, "I once mistreated my apprentices. I thought keeping secrets made me great, but I lost everything. It was only when I learned to share and be humble that my craft truly grew." His honesty touched many, and he became an advocate for proper apprenticeship training across Nigeria. Workshops invited him to speak, and he used his story as a warning to others. Uche, on the other hand, remained the gentle mentor he had always been. He often reminded Chike and the apprentices that kindness was not weakness, but strength. "Shoes carry people across journeys," he would say. "Let our shoes carry people with dignity, and let our hearts carry our apprentices with care." His words became a guiding principle for Unity Footwears, and even employees who were not apprentices adopted this culture of respect and growth. In ABBA, life changed for many families. Parents who once struggled now boasted of children working in thriving branches of the company. Apprentices who had finished their terms returned home with money, skills, and confidence to open shops. Some even sponsored their siblings' education with earnings from shoemaking. The ripple effect was felt in schools, markets, and even churches, as young people proudly declared shoemaking a noble profession. One day, as Chike and Uche sat outside their ABBA office, sipping palm wine under the shade of an almond tree, Chike reflected aloud, "If I had succeeded in destroying you, I would have destroyed myself too, but God gave me a second chance." Uche smiled and replied, "Sometimes God uses our mistakes to redirect us. Look at where we are now. Brothers, not rivals." They clinked their cups together, the apprentices watching with admiration. The market women of Ariaria often told newcomers the story of the two shoemakers. They would point to the grand workshop and say, "These men once fought bitterly, but see them now. Their friendship built something greater than rivalry ever could." Children grew up hearing the tale, and it became a lesson not just about shoemaking, but about life, humility, and cooperation. For ABBA, their story became part of its identity. Years rolled by, and Unity Footwears continued to thrive. Even when new competitors emerged, Chike and Uche welcomed them instead of fighting. They believed competition pushed creativity, not destruction. Together, they trained thousands of young men and women who carried their brand across Africa and beyond. ABBA, once mocked for imitation goods, was now celebrated as the cradle of innovation. The names of Chike and Uche became inseparable in the history of Nigerian craftsmanship. In the end, Chike understood that true greatness was not in being the only skilled person, but in raising others to be skilled as well. Uche had taught him that kindness multiplies, while pride divides. Their partnership proved that even enemies could become brothers, and their shoes walked proudly into distant lands, carrying the spirit of ABBA with them. For generations to come, people remembered the two shoemakers, not as rivals who fought, but as friends who built an empire together.